It's kind of weird because Jake Paul is extremely bigger than Tank. And I mean, but with it being a exhibition, it makes sense.
Start like this. First of all, if you're a boxer and you're not taking note or notice of what Jake Paul is doing, you're worried about criticizing his boxing skills, then you're the fool.
Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big.
When two of boxing's most talked about names, YouTuber turned fighter Jake Paul and pound-for-pound star Gervonta Tank Davis finally collide, legends of the sport are already weighing in. Davis brings knockout power, blazing hand speed, and proven experience at the highest level, while Paul enters with massive fan attention and a record of pulling off unexpected results. Some veterans predict Davis will impose his trademark dominance with sharp movement and accuracy. Yet others believe Paul's size, reach, and ability to surprise critics could turn this into the upset of the year.
You know what? Fair play. If he does go out and fight Anthony Joshua, which I wouldn't advise because that would be extremely dangerous, then fair play if he was to do that. And all the critics and people like myself would have to shut the hell up, because I always said he's looking for fights that were manufactured, looking for fights that were predetermined. And by that, I don't mean fake fights. I don't mean fixed fights. I mean fights where the odds are so stacked in his favor that of course he's going to win. And of course, we see this. The latest match that's going to go down November 14th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Jake Paul is taking on, you've seen it by now, Gervonta Tank Davis. A man that is a lightweight in boxing. Now, lightweight in MMA is 155 pounds. Lightweight in boxing, 135 pounds. Jake Paul, I think when he weighed in for Mike Tyson, was 227 pounds.
Official weight, 227.2 pounds.
That is, if I'm not mistaken, a 92-pound weight difference. Almost a 100-pound weight difference. It's insane. Let's say he comes in at 200 pounds. It's still a 65-pound weight advantage, which is absolutely ridiculous. How can you be out there claiming to want to fight the best people on the planet and then going out there and taking on a guy that is maybe 92 pounds heavier, that is at least 65 pounds heavier than you? That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, I just beat the man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
In a twist, the fight's venue has shifted. Instead of Atlanta, Jake Paul will now battle Gervonta Davis on November 14th at the Casa Center in Miami. MVP confirmed on social media, posting, "The war has left Atlanta. Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis now owns Miami. Same night, same fight, brand new city." The clash will be broadcast worldwide on Netflix. While many dismiss it as a spectacle, official word lists it as an exhibition. A major storyline remains the size gap. Paul recently fought near 199.4 pounds at cruiserweight, whereas Davis has been campaigning around 135 pounds. Because of that huge difference, Davis says WBA lightweight belt won't be on the line.
Boxing fans are losing their minds over this Jake Paul versus Tank Davis fight. And honestly, can you blame them? Why would Tank agree to this? I mean, look at the graphic. Jake is 6'1", 199 pounds with a 6'4" wingspan. Tank, 5'5", 133 pounds, a 5'7" wingspan. Tank fighting me would be a fairer matchup. We're basically the same size. And you wonder why fans think Jake's fights are rigged? Because every time we see some nonsense like this, it feels like WWE with boxing gloves. Here's the kicker though. Jake threatened to sue anyone who calls his fights rigged. Yeah, you know, the same guy who preaches freedom of speech now wants to ban opinions. After that clown show with Mike Tyson that left everyone scratching their heads. Maybe, and I'm just throwing it out there, if your own management company wasn't promoting and sponsoring your fights, fans might actually believe what they're watching. Until then, don't be mad that people are skeptical. Be mad that your boxing career looks more like a scripted reality TV show.
Despite the date being locked in, full fight details remain unclear. There has been no confirmed contract weight, no set round length, and no clarity on whether the match will follow standard professional rules. This uncertainty makes many view the bout more as a crossover event than a legitimate contest, sparking heated debates over fairness, fighter safety, and the credibility of boxing's weight divisions.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skills, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
Terrence Crawford looks at the Paul Davis showdown with suspicion, mainly due to the massive size disparity. He argues that the fight is more entertainment than genuine competition, comparing it to a sparring match packaged as a blockbuster. While Crawford admits Davis is an explosive, world-class talent, he also warns that if Paul's larger frame helps him land cleanly, momentum could flip instantly. Still, Crawford doubts the event will truly follow professional standards, stressing that the weight imbalance prevents it from being considered an even contest.
A fight between equals.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Undefeated star Shakur Stevenson also criticizes the matchup, calling it an unfair scenario for Davis because of Paul's size advantage. Yet he maintains that Davis's technical craft, sharp timing, and superior ring IQ would allow him to dominate with relative ease. Stevenson expects Davis to lean on movement and precision rather than brute force. He questions whether Paul has the polish to handle Davis's speed and skill. In Stevenson's eyes, Davis is unlikely to chase a knockout, instead boxing smart for a decision win. Though he sees the fight as damaging to boxing's reputation, Stevenson is convinced Davis is on an entirely different level from Paul in terms of ability.
Case here when you've got what is like a 70-pound difference between these two guys.
I mean, size will play some part of the fight, but if I'm thinking like I'm Tank, I'm probably just gonna go out there and try to outbox him and use my knowledge and IQ against him. So I can see Tank just outboxing him and making it real easy.
Is there any way you could, any realistic or legitimate way in your mind you could see Jake Paul winning a fight against Tank?
No.
No way.
Nope.
Not a lot of people have talked about Jake and said he's got good power. Not even and I get anything could technically happen, but you don't even see a realistic shot where he could land one big punch, and Tank being so much smaller, he just can't handle the power.
Nah, not at all. I think Tank is he's been boxing his whole life. Been boxing since a kid, so I doubt like that's gonna be an issue or problem. I think Jake is good for where he's at, but I think it's just levels.
What do you think about the rumors of Tank and Jake fight?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that. And he called cap on it. So if he won't call cap and say I'm not who I say I am, come prove it. I think it's dangerous for him to go back in there and fight Lamont. I think Lamont is a hell of a fighter. I can see that going left. So he better be on his A game.
Daniel Cormier offers a more balanced take. He praises Paul for daring to share the ring with someone of Davis's caliber, acknowledging the risk and the spotlight attached. Still, he points out how lopsided the fight looks when judged by boxing standards, particularly the weight gap. Cormier stresses that Davis's pedigree, experience, and skill set clearly outclass Paul, meaning Paul is gambling his reputation. He also reflects on the consequences of defeat. For Paul, a loss could undercut his credibility, while for Davis, Being beaten by a bigger YouTuber would carry heavy reputational risk. Though Cormier doesn't lock in a prediction, he leans toward Davis' superior craft, while admitting Paul's size keeps the outcome unpredictable.
I swear to God, I was on a plane coming home from Las Vegas. When Luis told me Gervonta Davis is fighting Jake Paul, I said, get the bleep out of here. I said, you're a bleep liar. Jake Paul is fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. Gervonta Davis is that much better than Jake Paul at boxing. But Gervonta Davis in his last fight weighed 133.8 pounds. And I'm not over here in the business of just crapping on Jake Paul. I am much more respectful of what he's starting to build as a professional boxer. You're fighting a guy that's better than you. He's just much smaller. But that guy, because he's better than you, what if he wins? Everything Jake Paul has done is wiped completely out. Gervonta Davis loses to Jake Paul. Obviously, it's going to hurt who Gervonta Davis is. But he lost to a guy that's going to be upwards of 70 pounds bigger than him when he steps into the boxing ring. But I will tell you this right now, without a shadow of a doubt, I will watch this. Tank Davis is 30-0-1. You want to talk about Jake Paul fighting a real boxer? That's a real boxer. You can't make this stuff up, man. It's true. They're fighting.
Teofimo Lopez frames the Paul versus Davis fight less as a clash for glory and more as a spectacle built on entertainment and money rather than rankings or legacy. He stresses there's nothing wrong with that, since both men are set for huge paydays and the spotlight of mainstream attention. While it won't carry the significance of a championship bout, Lopez argues it still has value by pulling in casual fans and creating buzz. Even as an exhibition, the event can benefit boxing by attracting new audiences, broadening its reach, and showing how the sport thrives when personalities, drama, and showmanship drive the story.
And I'm actually very happy for Gervonta and Jake. I really am, man. It's good for the sport in some way, you know?
So a heavyweight versus a lightweight.
Yeah.
You got a fly hit me, yeah. A heavyweight versus a lightweight. How's this gonna work?
Hey, they make it work. It's an exhibition for a reason. So, you know, they know what they're doing. And, you know, shout out to Netflix and shout out to both of them, honestly. Like I said, I think a lot of people in the boxing world are kind of upset. I could care less. I think they're going to go out there and make their money. It falls on the number 8 for a reason. They're going to make a lot of money.
Have you got a prediction for that fight?
My prediction? A show.
Well, clearly it's a show, but when you've got a lot of people underestimating Jake Paul once again, but when you've got a heavyweight boxer who knows how to throw punches and knows the basics against a lightweight, it's quite a difference. I mean, have you sparred heavyweights before?
Yeah.
The competitive sparring in the ring?
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same, not at all. Definitely got to move. I've actually played around a few times, went through between their legs just to duck around. But yeah, because they're taller, you know. But I think for that competition, that fight, it reminds me a lot like The Big Show, and Floyd Mayweather when they fought in WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And will that end the same way?
Possibly. Maybe some brass knuckles in there too.
Can you see Jake Paul knocking out Gervonta Davis?
It's boxing, man. And if it's a show like this, anything goes, anything happens. You know, we expected Mike Tyson to do something, didn't go out that way. Jake Paul's training very hard, so, you know, kudos to both guys. I'm not going to critique them.
Promoter Eddie Hearn shared a comparable view but pushed further. He warned that boxing and pure entertainment need clear boundaries, and a fight like Paul versus Davis dangerously blurs the two. In his words, this isn't a genuine competitive contest, but a business move built on celebrity appeal and viral hype. The extreme weight gap only proves that it's not about fair skill testing, but rather about packaging a spectacle for attention. Hearn admits the fight will be a commercial juggernaut, drawing global interest and massive revenue. Still, as a promoter who values authentic competition, he finds it worrying when business overshadows sporting merit. Yet even he concedes that financially, the fight will deliver, guaranteeing headlines, tickets, and pay-per-view buys, no matter how much purists criticize it. So, what's your take on Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis? Will it be Tank's experience or Jake's size that decides the outcome? Share your predictions in the comments below.